When you're standing at a workbench, a hobby table, or a field lab, the biggest fear is buying a microscope that looks impressive on the spec sheet but ends up being a handful to use, or worse, a piece of equipment that never quite lets you see the detail you need for the task at hand. I've spent a lot of time watching people wrestle with arm-mounted stereo microscopes that either lack the reach for larger samples or don't give enough flexibility when you're switching between a tiny component and a larger board. That's why I wanted to take a closer look at the AmScope SM8TZ 144S 10M, a digital professional stereo microscope that promises a long working distance, a trinocular head, and a 40-inch articulating arm. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about the kind of work this system is built for. The articulating arm is the centerpiece, and it really shines when you need to move the optical head around a large work surface without constantly readjusting a base. Imagine you're a PCB repair technician who has to inspect a full-size board, then zoom in on a specific solder joint, then step back to view the overall layout. With a 40-inch reach and a clamp that can attach to a sturdy table edge, the arm lets you position the microscope anywhere along that span and hold it steady. That stability is a real time saver compared with a tabletop unit that forces you to shuffle the entire board each time you need a new angle. The trinocular head is another feature that separates this model from a lot of entry-level stereoscopes. Two 10 super wide-field eyepieces give you a comfortable, spacious view, while the third port lets you attach a camera for documentation without breaking the visual flow. In practice, that means you can be looking through the eyepieces, adjust focus, and simultaneously capture an image or video for a report or a tutorial. For anyone who needs to keep a visual record, whether it's a forensic analyst, a biology student documenting specimens, or a hobbyist sharing a build on YouTube, this dual-view capability cuts down on the awkward back and forth of swapping out lenses. Zoom is a common pain point in stereo microscopy. The SM8TZ 0.74.5 objective gives you a continuous zoom range, so you're not jumping between fixed magnifications. In real use, the lower end, around 0.7, provides that long working distance you need to view larger objects, like a small mechanical assembly, without having to press the head too close. Cranking up toward 4.5 lets you see fine surface details on a watch gear or a solder joint. What's useful here is the smooth transition. You can start with a broad overview, then slide the zoom knob to focus on a defect without losing your place. That continuity is something I've rarely seen in cheaper models that force you to change objectives entirely. Lighting is where the hidden trade-off often shows up. The SM8TZ comes with a removable 144 bulb LED ring light that's rheostat controlled, meaning you can dial the intensity up or down while you're watching. In my testing, the LED was bright enough to illuminate opaque metal parts without washing out subtle color differences in a biological sample. The fact that it's removable also means you can swap in a different light source, say, a coaxial illumination module if your workflow demands it. However, the ring light's design does create a slightly uneven illumination pattern at the highest settings, producing a faint halo around the edges of a flat sample. For most users, that's a minor annoyance, but if you're doing precise metrology where uniform lighting is critical, you might need to add a diffusing filter. Now, who should consider buying this system? If you're a professional or serious hobbyist who routinely works with medium-sized objects, anything from printed circuit boards, small mechanical parts, geological samples, to entomology specimens, the combination of a long-reach arm, trinocular viewing, and flexible zoom makes the SM8TZ a practical workstation upgrade. It also suits educators who want to demonstrate live microscopy to a class while capturing footage for later review. The ability to clamp the arm to a table edge frees up bench space, which is a real advantage in cramped labs. On the flip side, if your work is confined to tiny, high-magnification tasks like cellular biology where 1040 magnification is standard, this scope might feel underpowered. The maximum 4.5 zoom translates to roughly 45 overall magnification when you factor in the 10 eyepieces, which is fine for surface inspection but not enough for subcellular detail. Also, the system's weight and the need for a solid mounting surface mean it isn't a good fit for portable fieldwork. If you need a lightweight, handheld stereo microscope for on-site inspections, you'll probably be better off with a more compact design. Let's get into some practical strengths and weaknesses that become apparent after a few weeks of use. The arm's articulation is smooth, but you do need to tighten the locking knobs each time you reposition it, otherwise, there's a tiny drift after prolonged use. That's not a flaw, just a